Here we are once again. For the last 6 months or so, Season 6 of Miraculous has been in full swing, or at least it was. Because now we have to face down the dreaded status quo of having to wait ages for new episodes. Don't you just love that? Part of me thinks that maybe they should just have delayed things a bit longer if they didn't have all the episodes ready. Or is this a deliberate tactic to stretch things out? Either way, it's kind of annoying, but I suppose at this point we're years and years in, so it's clear things are never going to change. I think we're coming to the stage where we simply have to accept it. However, that being said, we luckily have been getting some news about the show quite a lot recently. A couple of weeks ago, we had a big deep dive into the Miraculous Tokyo special, and the spin-off series is going to pick up from where that leaves off with Stellar Force. But now apparently we have some more news that somebody posted about on Reddit, who in turn I think got it from Ladyblog News. So credit where credit's due. Since we're in a bit of a Miraculous content drought, I thought, why not talk about that today? Give my thoughts on all the little tidbits that we've learned about. The first thing to note is that apparently the season's going on a brief hiatus until autumn/fall of this year, which, yeah, lovely. Realistically, it could be anywhere from September to November. Ideally, we'll be seeing episodes start back up in September, but to be honest, I think it's going to be October. Slap bam in the middle. I doubt it's going to be in November, as I feel like that would be too long a gap, right? After all, from May, which is the latest episode that had international debut, that would have been, 6 months? That's a little bit ridiculous. It's way too long. Hell, 5 months is pretty long a gap too, but I think the optics of half a year are very bad. That being said, apparently if international broadcasters have episode batches, they can release them early if they so choose. So Gloob, now's your time. You know what you have to do. Seriously though, what a momentum killer this is. I do feel more and more in film and TV, we're seeing these really long breaks in production and release, and for me it kills the momentum and fan interest. It's no different from Miraculous, especially this season. When the season first started, there was a lot of hype and people were super invested. Lots of interest around the episodes, and there was chatter and discussion, lots of theorizing. In previous seasons, when there was long breaks, people would simply keep going, keep talking, keep theorizing, but now, it feels like the fandom somewhat goes into hibernation. People are getting fatigued by content droughts, and it's starting to show. Moving on, the next bit of news is that Stellar Force is apparently nearly complete. This did shock me, not gonna lie. Part of me figured that this was going to be one of those series that would drop in the next couple of years. So the Tokyo special slated to drop this year. Does that mean Stellar Force could come next year? Or are they going to try to present this show as something you can watch during the main Miraculous off-season? So do we think they're going to time it to drop after Season 6 finale to bridge the gap between Season 6 and Season 7 and hopefully retain some fans of the original show and keep them interested, whilst also potentially reaching into the anime space and snatching new fans they could potentially convert into watching the mainline show that previously hadn't given it a chance? The more I think about it, the more I realise that this show is actually a very clever, creative and business decision. There's a lot of upside to it, but I suppose we'll have to wait and see as to whether it actually pays off in any real way. Not gonna lie, I originally did not care about this spin-off at all, but the more I'm thinking about it, the more excited I'm becoming. Hell yeah, hope it's good. Next up is the news that Nino's getting his own focused episode, which, to be honest, feels kind of obvious? Not to be a smartass, but this season we've already seen Ivan get his own focused episode, exploring his trauma with his dad being a criminal. We've had Sabrina work to earn the friendship of her former victims, from which she used to hang out with Chloe. We've explored Rose and Julika's romance, and I expect they're going to have their own properly focused episodes too, as they were just the B-plot for Ivan's episode. Plus, there was an episode for Mark and Nathaniel, who are probably the two most underutilized of the Miraculous hero team in terms of screen time and story relevance, and this episode breathed so much life into their dynamic. Plus, Alia had Revelator, which explored her relationship with Marinette in a really interesting way, and I'm sure she's going to get more. So I guess from that point of view, it does feel deeply obvious that one of the big four OG heroes is going to get his own focused episode that fleshes him out. It's been a long time since the character's been done justice, and along the way he has just become Alia's goofy boyfriend and Adrian's goofy best friend. It's time to dive deeper into that characterization and add some depth. I've always liked Nino, and back in Season 2, Carapace was probably my favourite hero on the roster. Let's make him prominent again and make him feel like an actual counterpart to Alia. Make him feel as valuable as she does to the team. Maybe flesh out his bond with Adrian a bit more. I still think they should have him discover that Adrian's Cat Noir and actually show growth by being able to keep that secret, even from Alia, much like she's done for Marinette. Plus, I think it opens up a lot more story potential for Adrian to have a confidant. I once thought that Luca could be that character, but now he's in Brazil, so I guess not. Then there was a bit of stuff about Lila. First up is the light that we saw at the end of Season 5 is going to be explained during Season 6. This is something I'm actually really curious about. It's probably the biggest hanging thread the show currently has, and I'm eager to see where it goes. I've speculated about what it could be a number of times, and even still, I'm not actually sure I've ever gotten close. It could be anything. That being said, even though it says Season 6 for the reveal, I don't think it's going to be until the very end. Pretty sure the Gabe reveal didn't happen until right at the end of season 1, right? Wasn't it like the final scene or something, or at least during that final episode? I can't quite recall when it was. Thus, I think it makes a lot of sense to hold off until the finale to do a big reveal that you can then use as a hook leading into season 7. Plus, I think that by having Lila remain in the shadows for pretty much all of season 6, it gives them more of a chance to focus on the minor characters and give them something interesting to do in the episodes. Remember how much screen time Gabe started to swallow up once we knew who he was? As the seasons went on, it pretty much just became a Marinette plot, mingled with a Gabe plot, and the only times the minor characters would pull focus is if they got wrapped up in one of those storylines. Here though, we're getting a lot of content independent of the leads, and that's just great. The second part of the Lila discussion is that only the head writers, the top level of creative, actually know the full details on how her arc's going to play out and what's going to happen. Thus, the general writers probably only have the bits and pieces of the specific episodes that they write. I've seen some people say online that they think this is a bad thing, as it could lead to crossed wires, but nah, honestly it's fine. The head writers are still overseeing the creative process and would serve as the curators of what's going on, right? So I doubt that anything that would contradict the overall direction they want to take the character in is actually going to be making the cut. I mean, maybe I could be dead wrong about all of this and end up looking like a fool, but there's so much room to be optimistic based on the quality of season 6 so far. Oh, and we're also going to be learning about Lila, her backstory, motivations, and future during the course of season 7 and the specials. Probably not the Tokyo special though, right? I feel like that's where you want to set up a villain for Stellar Force to face off with Marinette and Kagami helping out with their opening act. And again, I could see them going the other way and have them face Lila, and this is what helps bring together the team in the first place to fight against future threats. I would expect that the rest of these relevant specials are probably unannounced, and also the Brazil one. That one's still planned, right? Luca is there and he knows things about secret identities, so I guess it really is a no-brainer to try to go after him to try to get him to spill the beans. Also, my god, I just realized that without a time limit on his power, Luca is just so insanely OP. No wonder the writers had to exile him from the plot. This is why adding time travel-based powers is a massively risky gamble. You end up with characters that could steamroll with ease. Then we can talk about things that they want to do in the future, but that we have no real confirmation that they're going to be following up with. The first of these is that Miraculous Corp is very interested in using the characters Lady Butterfly and Lady Lion, who have been rumoured characters for years at this point. Can I also just say, uncreative names as well. Like, already got a Ladybug and a Lady Dragon. Go back to the drawing board with them. But yeah, having looked at some pictures and some concept art, I get why you'd want to use them. They have very cool designs, which you could definitely use to sell merch. I personally have no idea where you'd actually use them, but I mean, how hard is it to include one in a special? Just put them in the script there. You've done it. You've solved the problem. I mean, they're not even really characters at this point. They're just designs. So just put them somewhere. It shouldn't be that hard, especially if you're introducing fresh heroes in various different specials anyway. Speaking of specials, there's also an interest in showcasing more of the universe that was described in the Paris special, the world that Shadybug, Claw Noir, and Betterfly inhabit, and where they contend with the Supreme. And yeah, that feels like a no-brainer. The Paris special was awesome. Animated superhero multiverses are all the rage. I mean, look how popular Into the Spider-Verse has been so far. Look at how the MCU's been leaning into alternate universes a bit more for their storytelling. Hell, even when you look at things like Marvel and DC Comics. Currently, some of their most popular content they've been releasing is the Ultimate Marvel and Absolute DC lines, which are essentially alternate universes with radical reinventions of the classic heroes. They're currently massively popular and are selling really well, so I actually think it would be smart to dive into that alternate universe. To tell you the truth, you wouldn't even need to use the OG Ladybug and Cat Noir. I think a simple spin-off show or special just following the characters we met in the Paris special would be really successful and popular. There seems to be so much you could do with the world that is so radically different. Plus, the superhero father and son teaming up sounds like it would be awesome, don't you think? Especially with the way they've set up Miraculous Corp and how they want to keep extending the universe more and more, an edgier spin-off seems like a no-brainer. But hey, I guess the bigwigs would know more than me. Moving on from that, Season 7 is apparently halfway through writing. I have no idea when they started writing, so I have no idea if this is fast or slow progress. You'd hope that they're able to finish up sooner rather than later though, because in the end, I think shorter breaks between seasons are much more tolerable than 18 months to 2 years. I feel that over time those long breaks have the potential to cool off hype, although considering how they apparently had their most successful year on record last year and have now formed a new company to oversee the franchise, I guess that they haven't encountered that roadblock as of yet. Either way, let's just hope they finish it in decent time and that it doesn't suck. There was mention of a potential live-action adaptation someday, but nothing has moved forward with that, and good. I really do not think this story would be good in live action. It feels like something best left as an animated thing. I feel the costumes would look very goofy, especially Marinette's OG spot suit. It would just be embarrassing. Also, Zag's trying to cram musicals into everything, I swear, and it would make it even more stupid. I swear when they first pitched the idea of a live action, they were saying it was going to be a musical, and please God, just no. Leave it be. Focus on all the other projects instead. And on top of that, the movie would flop, I guarantee it. We got a little tidbit about how one of the new writers is responsible for the absolute banger episode The Ruler, and I'm not surprised. It's a good choice always to bring in new blood to help write for a new season, especially when you have so many episodes and so much time to fill. If the team becomes stagnant, that's where I think the story becomes stagnant and you start rehashing tired old plot lines and doing the same things again and again and again. Season 6 feels like a creative shake-up and is really fresh. We'll see if it lasts, but right now, it's going in the right direction. Then there was more on how Season 6 is a puzzle with a secret hidden in there that you need to figure out, with the finale being the final piece. Although I suppose if you watched all the episodes except the finale, you'd probably have a good idea of what's going on, you just need that final confirmation. I'll be real, at the moment, I'm not even going to bother trying to figure out what that puzzle is. We haven't even had half the season yet, so there's no chance you're going to be able to figure it out on your own. There's just so much that we don't know, and I suspect that it's the back half of the season that will begin to unveil things. Until then, we have to wait and see. Anyway, though, that's all the tidbits I could find, and so with all that being said, these have just been my opinions, and now I'd like to hear yours. What do you think of everything we've discussed today? Is there anything you'd like to add? Anything you disagree with or didn't like? I'm curious for your thoughts, so make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know.